Okay, I think we will kick off. So hello everyone and welcome to our event with Reactor Stockholm, which is in conjunction with Demando. So thank you everyone for joining. We're pretty excited about today. We have a really strong lineup for a panel discussion, diving a little bit deeper into the topic of life as a developer and trying to explore lots of different areas as to how you can look at your growth in that career, some things to think about, and drawing on some of the expertise from various people who are at different phases, I guess, in their career, and also a few different perspectives as well. So before we get into it, just a quick word on code of conduct. So we do encourage you all to post questions throughout. We'll be moderating the chat. So we do encourage you all to kind of be respectful as you do that, think about others. But yeah, you can see the code of conduct there. So something to be mindful of, both in today's session and in any of the conversations that may follow. In terms of the speakers, so we'll do a quick run through of who we've got, and I will ask everyone to quickly say hi to themselves. So first up, I will hand over to Roberto from Demando to introduce himself. Over to you, Robert.
Hi guys. I'm really glad we're doing this. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Demando, which is one of the largest tech career marketplace in the Nordics, which really connects over 2,000 developers and 600 companies. So I'm a former developer myself, way back with a classic ASP, and I've been working a lot with C#, but right now I'm the CEO of Demando. So I think I'm really glad we've done this, because I think we need to focus a little bit more than just the technology of a developer, and focus a little bit more on the career and how your work day looks like and what you can learn from each other. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm also excited to say we've got Lennart from H&M. Hello, Lennart.
Hi, and thank you for bringing me here. Very nice to be here and hang around with developers. I'm working at H&M Group as a principal architect in the PLM landscape for now, product lifecycle management, where we're actually treating all the products from development up to the stores, wherever that is online or physical. Now, I have been a developer for many years, and I truly love to code, still love to code, even though I'm working as an architect nowadays. With this cloud and everything, I'm really excited. C#, C++, C, even assembler. We can talk about language we want to, but it's more important nowadays is actually how you're doing it and how you collaborate. But we come into that. So I thank you for now, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I'm also excited to introduce Emir. Hey, Emir, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I'm here representing SALT today, the School of Applied Technology. I've been a developer for 2 years, just. I was in the first class run by the school, 2018-2019, and I've gone through the career program with them. So yeah, very excited to be here and just talk about my journey and yeah, learn from you guys.
Awesome, thank you. So you can see that we've got someone early on in their career and someone who's had a few more years under the belt there. So we'll be diving into that a little bit more. And I'm also super excited to introduce one of our own from Microsoft, Tibi, as well. Do you want to say hi, Tibi?
Hi, I'm Tibi. I'm the Azure Developer PMM for Sweden. So my role actually at Azure is to make sure that developers are loving Azure. I've been a developer for a very long time. I think I'm there, head-to-head competing with Lennart on how long I've been a developer. I started with Pascal back in 1991, and then I continued with assembler, C++, and I was just showing off the other day, telling people that my very first version of Visual line of products was Visual C++ 1.5. So I have some, some years under my belt when it comes to programming.
Thanks, Tibby. We won't be asking anyone to reveal exactly how many years today. That's fine. Okay, so let's get into it. So, Ima, I might start with you if that's okay. So, Salt is very much focused, I think, on the early stage of people's career. Obviously, has a strong record from a kind of fast track perspective. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience and if there was kind of any relevant insights you might want to share with the audience?
Yeah. So I suppose for those who don't know, SALT is a career program with a focus on a boot camp. So the kind of style that you see much more prevalent these days. It's an intense program with many applicants, and its focus is on, I would say, both the soft skills just as much as the tech skills. They try and create an environment that is much more like the real life environment in tech. And I suppose for me, I came from a very different area. I have a degree in fine art, and I was working just in a bar here in Stockholm for a while and saw that an amazing opportunity to use my creativity in a new way. So yeah, that's how SALT works. I did a year with SALT as a consultant in a company called Flowbox, and they took me on as staff. So I've been there now 2 years. Yeah, it's a really interesting program.
That's so interesting. Can you? I'm really interested in the shift from fine art to software development. Like, is there? How has that kind of academic background been relevant or interesting from a development perspective?
Well, I mean, anyone with a degree in fine art knows that it's not the best career-wise, but it's something that'll help you in your career wherever you go, right?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, from my own personal artwork, I was just super interested in working in technologies and discovering stuff. So I had played around a bit. And I think when you go into a program like SALT, it's good to have a basis of some code knowledge. So, we were back doing Dreamweaver when I was in college, so going and learning JavaScript and really applying my skills that way was super interesting, but obviously super useful to have that in my back pocket.
Yeah, cool. Interesting. So I might jump to you now, Leonard, if that's okay. So I think you've got a few more years under your belt would be a fair description. Can you talk us a little bit about your experience? And I can't help but notice the NASA logo in the background, which may be relevant.
Yeah, it is actually. For those who don't know, may know that we have a satellite that's landing from NASA on March within a couple of hours. And I'm actually on board on that. My name is interpreted somewhere on a plate, small plate, because there's millions of people who attend to that one. Nevertheless, I've been working as a developer for like 30 years plus-ish. So yeah, I challenge you, TB, on that C++ skills, but nevertheless, not for now. I've been learning in my Roller College at the KTH here in Sweden. I was there attending there to engineering physics. And we needed to learn programming so we can solve mathematical problems, numerical mathematical problems. So that was all started for me. And I was fascinated by the things, how you actually could resolve tremendously hard problems with just pure logic, you can say, to simplify. Nowadays, it's not just pure logic, it's much more than that. It's machine learning, it's AI, and it's everything about how you collaborate, how you consolidate things to make it work for you with the data. And data is so much more important today than it was yesterday. Yesterday was more like, how do I learn a language to my 100% skill sets? Today is not so much about the language, more about the mindset as a developer, how you work, how you collaborate. Yesterday it was me and my Jolt Coke in a corner, and don't disturb me because I have a headset on listening to this head-banging music. Today is much more reaching out. The headset is for teams and working in pairs and mobs and everything. And I must say, fine arts brings other stuff into your programming skills. You need to be elsewhere to bring that social context into programming. I have a previous career as a dancer in musicals and stuff, and you may think that doesn't give you anything, but yes, it does, because the brain, how the brain works, how it collaborates with itself and so forth, and collect and evaluate the information and knowledge, you need it. You need your body to move to make things better.
That's so interesting. So we've got two people from a background in the arts here. I wonder if there's a theme here. I might jump to you, Roberto, if that's okay. So you're obviously super engaged with the developer community. are there any kind of like insights that you've seen or anything kind of relevant that's happening at the moment in terms of kind of how they are developing themselves?
Turn on the sound. Okay, so let's start again, I guess. I think I can bring a few ones. I mean, especially with Demando, we have so much data. We talk with so many developers. We talk with so many companies, and I would say I would like to tell you to you, Leonard, especially this. Right now, it's about to go general. I mean, you can start really with doing 5 years of Java education. I mean, you're a problem solver first and foremost. But even though I talk with a lot of companies that are explicitly talking about, we would like to have an Angular developer with 5 years of experience. Okay, but what about a React developer with 3 years of experience? No, I need an Angular developer with 5 years of experience. So I think that's a bit of shame, unfortunately. So that's why I really like the tips and ideas is really to go general. I think that's important. And also I would like to, is it really worth spending 5 years on university if your desire is to work with development? I'm not sure. Salt works pretty good, I think. So I mean, I spent a lot of time at Georgia State University, Atlanta. I'm not really sure I was a better programmer. I mean, we learned so well back then, but it was fun. But I think if your desire is to be a programmer, what about Salt? What about learning yourself? Because that's how it works later on.
Yeah. So I might jump to Amir actually. Have you having gone through Salt, I guess, rather than the kind of, the longer academic route, have you faced any problems in your career? Have you kind of spotted any gaps, or has it not been a disadvantage at all?
I think that, I suppose, if you want to be a developer, it's about being a lifelong learner, right? You have to stay learning anyway. So you have to just keep that pace. But I think traditionally in the industry, there's a lot of, maths and people with quite a lot of experience. But on the other side, you have people who are totally self-taught, and I think you need to be self-taught forever. I think that's how it goes. So you can't just like stop. And I think that's the thing. And I think that as long as you're doing that, you won't have gaps because you just fill them when you see them. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems I see when, when you say 5 years experience with Angular is because that's one of the easiest way to get the feeling that someone knows a certain subject. So the HR or the recruiting people, for them is much easier to say, okay, so if you tell me you've worked 5 years with that, my assumption is that if you every year go to the next level, then you would be to that seniority level, so I can call you a senior developer just because you spend 5 years working with a certain technology. But that's not true. Like Emmer said, it's a lifelong learning. So actually I can reach a senior level by working 1 year, but really going into the nitty and gritty and understanding all the whys of that particular framework. Or I can just sit 5 years and do nothing, just like move post-its on my Scrum board and say I've done this new feature and this new feature and not do anything extra. So I don't think really the number of years it's always relevant as as a good factor. Of course, I can't claim after 1 month that I'm a senior Angular developer, although I may have seniority in other programming languages, but I still can compete with some of the senior developers having many other languages, or many other frameworks as experience, and understanding why that, why Angular, I mean, we're using Angular as an example, it doesn't have to be that, but why Angular came about and what's important about it.
I totally agree with that stuff, because the journey from junior to senior is a path. You don't just become senior overnight, right? And you have so many life skills besides that, maybe one language, that makes you a good developer. And I think that, skin in the game doesn't always equate to a better or senior developer. And I think that coming in as a junior is important to recognize, okay, I don't have as much experience, but it's important not to also put people in boxes all the time, I think,
But it's with language. You start learning talking. You can't talk from the beginning, but eventually you stand up and you're stumbling around, learning, walking and talking. It's the same with the programming skills. You start off often, I must say, you start off with a language, or you start off with a way of solving a logical problem. Not necessarily language. Today you have all these kind of building blocks for kids and everything. You're working on the pads. In the long run, doesn't matter if you have 5 years of TypeScript or Angular, C# experience. What does matter is how you communicate, how you share, how you continuously learn. Because more than anything else, it goes faster and faster. So if you have like 5 years of TypeScript knowledge, good. But tomorrow, that is, so to say, from a knowledge perspective, it's not worth anything, because tomorrow we have another thing called, I don't know, tomorrow script. So it will be something else that you need to be more specialized in terms of the tooling you're working with. As with any handcrafty man, you need to work your skills on the tool sets you have. That's another thing. You need to be open-minded and take them into account quicker and quicker and quicker. And that is building your seniority. Now, in terms of building learning curves and continuously learning all life, you need to be online. You need to communicate. You need to learn. You work with people, be social, be attending events and all of that stuff. Then you learn. And you learn by experience. Fail fast is an expression we use in H&M. And that is, we encourage people to really try out, work in the fast-paced world of truly agile today, where you fail fast. And this is culture where you're allowed to fail, to learn to walk, to learn to walk and talk.
Thank you. That's interesting. So I'm hearing a few things there. So one, I think, is problem solving above all else seems to be a really key skill that people need to master. And then also that there needs to be a way almost to bypass the HR or the kind of recruiting teams to kind of get in to communicate that message. And I wonder, actually, Roberto, from your perspective, I assume you're dealing with lots of recruiters and HR folk and so on. Like, is there any advice you have for developers, maybe around networking or kind of building, their personal brand that can help them kind of get some of these jobs when they don't necessarily have the required years in a particular language?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, things are changing finally, which is really, really good. And my advice would really be to show up on like Stack Overflow. I mean, everyone is on Stack Overflow. Everyone is Googling, participate in these online events, which are really now in the COVID situation. And also, I mean, participating in the open source community. All of our companies are asking, okay, what do you do on your spare time? What do you participate in something? Can you show your GitHub and so on? So I mean, that's a great way in showing and participating in the community.
Okay.
I totally agree to what you're saying, Robert. GitHub, excellent example. Okay, how do you learn? Well, why don't you try to teach it? Then I promise you will learn, because if you're supposed to teach this on Monday, you will know it by Monday, I promise you. So that's a way to learn. Also, I have this problem with, I don't know, I need to sort my socks or whatever problem I have. Sorting problem, okay, cool. How can I do that? Well, I put it up as a GitHub project. Hey, would you like to join me on this journey? Then I present it to GitHub in my community and reaching outside, because my friends of a friends also getting attached to that one. It's truly so. Where's your GitHub? Present it. It's your front face today, right?
Exactly. I might come to you, Tibby, actually, because I think it would be interesting to get your perspective from Microsoft, and particularly on the technology side. If you're kind of seeing any trends, and I might even kind of reference the obvious environment that we're going through at the moment from a COVID perspective, which is changed the way a lot of people are actually showing up to work and engaging with tools and so on. How is that kind of played out from a technology perspective?
So I think there are a lot of tools that are making our life as developers much easier right now. So like Teams being one of them, it's very easy now to collaborate across. We're using Teams on different, for different, for meeting other people. Plus that we as Microsoft have come up with other tools that help interaction between developers much easier. So Emma mentioned, mob programming. So of course, when you are in the same room, it's very easy to do it. Like, 5 people looking at the same screen, one of them it's taking the control of the keyboard, and you do it more or less. But in a virtual environment, you have to have the tools to do it. And we released about 3 years ago already Visual Studio Live, which makes it much easier, live share, which makes it much easier to actually not share screen, but share the coding session. And what I like about it is, because I have my preferences for my ugly colors, and I want to see those when I do the programming. So I don't want to look at your screen. I want to look at your code. But I want to keep the environment the way I want it. If I want to do debugging, I might not need to install all the things that you have on your own machine just to be able to do that particular debugging session. What I need is actually to be able to collaborate. So that's what we end up doing. And of course, having the technologies there, just putting them together, we managed to do that. And it's a very cool tool. And it works with both Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. So you don't need the whole thing there. It works with with code spaces, so you actually get a lot of things for free, more or less, by using that, and makes your collaboration much easier.
Everyone's ID and their own setup is so personal, and when you work in a mob, sometimes when you go to someone's keyboard and it's in a different layout to yours, so I've experienced that hands-on, and being able to use your own setting. Hey, it's a perk, right? So yeah, I wonder if we go back and we end up sitting at tables again, will we just be at our own desks anyway?
Yeah, might be. We might do that, but you can even use live share if you sit next to each other. You can still do that. You can have someone taking control over the keyboard, and you can still see the same code, talk about the same thing. You might not need a team session to do the talking, maybe, and you might not need the microphone, but you can still get to see your own environment and your own things. I think we're going to see a lot of new ways of working. One of the biggest questions that people were asking, like what was the trigger, that led to your digital transformation, and there are 3 answers: the CEO, the COO, and COVID-19. That's, like people had no other choice than actually do the digital transformation and do start moving all the things that they're doing to an online system.
Thank you. We've had a question come through which is quite relevant. I'll just kind of pose that. So, hello. I assume you're all located in different regions/countries. Is that right? Well, actually, myself included, I'm in London. Everyone else is in Sweden, but I think kind of spread out a little bit. If so, how do you find collaborating with colleagues/employers, possibly in other countries, online? Then going forward, do you consider it will get back to visiting other countries for meetings for work again? I don't know if anyone's got a view on that.
Yeah, at H&M we work around the globe, you can say. I think you all know our brand. So we have development teams all over the world, actually. We have in China, we have in Bangladesh, we have in India, we're here in Stockholm. We have some guys in London, I think, so forth. The challenge is that we are working in different time zones, so that people are not supposed to be in meeting in 2 a.m., that we can have decent work hours. Otherwise, it works tremendously well, I must say, today with the teams. Now, yesterday, you were not allowed to work from home at H&M, but today you're mandatory to work from home with this COVID. And that quick turn we did at H&M couldn't have been done without these digital possibilities that we have today with Teams and everything. And also to address what Emma was saying earlier about the working in the code space, sharing spaces, mob programming and so forth, it's so much easier today to do that. Now, nothing beats an IRL, in real life meeting yet, but we're getting closer to it. And today it's so much easier to share code and everything. And working in the mobs, and you sit on another desk and I just hang a minute, I go over here and fix that, and then you're back into the mob again. It works so much better. And to answer the question about if it's hard to work in regions and so forth, yes, it's hard. But if you just get the mindset and get used to it, how do you work without actually sitting side to side with your colleague, it actually works tremendously well, I must say, today. With this new software, we can share everything like Switch and Easy.
Are there specific softwares you're using which enable that kind of collaboration?
Yes, you use many things out of the box, I would say. Though configured for our environments, so we are truly secure and everything like that. But it's mostly we use the number one software today to collaboration is Teams.
Yeah.
And of course, the suite of Office 365. So I can sit in for example, in my PowerPoint, do my PowerPointing, and you are also seeing that, and the meeting is seeing the same thing I'm doing, real life PowerPointing when we're trying to evaluate whatever presentation we need to do. And the same go with Visual Studio. We're staying in Visual Studio, regardless if it's code or the big IDE, we see what we're doing together. And we experience this truly mob thing. It also can be like we are more or less on the same page and doing the same sentence, typing over each other. Okay, that's a collab problem. I decide, hey dude, it's my keyboard now. So,
but one of the things that I'm seeing as well, you know, and what makes it different is that prior to COVID, we had one of the issues we had was, you know, the way you control, not necessarily control people, but the way you make sure people do their job is by making sure that everyone is in the same room, and then it's someone there looking at what they are doing, you know, looking over their shoulder. But this has to change, you know, because that's not the good way. Just because I look over your shoulder, it doesn't mean you are productive. It doesn't mean you are solving a problem. But you know what? As a manager, then I'm happy. I know that I've done my job and I manage. You know, I'm managing you. So I think we need to become leaders, and we need to lead people to solve the problem. We need to make sure that we can actually judge people by the code of their quality, the quality of their code, by maybe, you know, the number of features they are able to implement. And we have the tools, like you can use GitHub now, and you can use code reviews, and you can look exactly how much code that person generated in that particular time period. How many things, how many features did they need to solve? So we need to shift a little bit the focus on, you know, what are we trying to measure? So what's my success as a manager, as a software development manager, is not actually based on how many people I oversaw when they're under a period of time. It's how productive my people manage to be, how many blockers I've been able to move out of their ways, how many, you know, how many tools I put at their disposal so they could actually collaborate better and have a creative environment.
Yeah, and I think that except for the COVID situation, I also think that the agile movement and the adoption of cross-functional team is also the enabler for this. I mean, you combine, you collect all the clever people in the same team trying to solve one problem. So that's also something that are enabled this.
I mean, yesterday it was trust is good, control is better. But I think that's totally a shift with the COVID. Now it's like, oh, control, well, that can be good, but trust is better, because if you can use your free spirit, your free mind, imagine stuff, innovate, and, you know, in the Agile, you have like an innovation sprint. So then you innovate by calendar. Is that how innovation truly works? Or is innovation working all the time in your work in progress where you collaborate with people? I think that you say something and then, oh, I get an idea, and then you jump on, and then you jump off, so to say. So it's collaboration, it's everything. And therefore, trust is everything. So you need to be like, show trust and be trustworthy.
Interesting. I might take it back to the piece about continuous learning, which we touched on a little bit. That seems like a really important thing for people to be doing, obviously continuously. Are there any particular places or resources that any of you go to for this? Is there anything, any kind of go-to places that you would share with the audience? And I'll leave that one open.
I can give that, you know, the old guy, the old guy perspective. You know, I mean, what I'm doing, but I'm actually using a lot of you know, LinkedIn Learning. I'm using Pluralsight. I'm using Stack Overflow. I've even, you know, like I even like to joke about it. Like a couple of years back, I needed one monitor to do my development, then I needed to move to two, because in one I need to see the, you know, the web. You know, the web application that I'm developing, and in the other one I have the code. Now I need three, because I need to put my Stack Overflow on the third one. So I need to look for, you know, for answers, and for you know, whenever I get blocked. And I think, like Emmer mentioned at the beginning, that's a lifelong journey. You don't stop learning. You need to do that all life.
I totally agree. You do it all life until you die. You continuously thinking, I hope. So, but be problem focused. If I would give any advice to a developer, find a problem and focus on that problem in your learning curve. Now, if you have an interest in, like, I would like to know more about machine learning, it seems like a cool thing. Well, cause a problem or see some underneath problem and try to solve it. That will help you learn. And best thing is if you can do it together with at least one other buddy. If you can sit in a study group or whatever you can call it. So, yeah, sorry, Emma.
No, I was just going to say that I think we're very lucky that this community loves to share, like we're not gatekeepers of knowledge, and we live in a time when it's just all at our fingertips. You don't have to go and do a degree. I mean, do if you want to, but you don't, it's not locked up in academia. It's all over the internet. It's on YouTube. And it's free everywhere. And it's just a matter of going and playing and learning. And I think that there's so many different ways of doing that. You can listen to a podcast when you go for a walk. You can get an ebook. It's like before, so much of that was you had to go through this route, but now you can take many routes to get there.
Yes, I totally agree. And what Tibby was saying earlier about this tooling, I totally agree to that one. But I would like to add one more that Emma just mentioned, and that was YouTube. Free, huge knowledge pile of things. Just go there. My kids do that. I do that. Everybody does that. It's there. It's for you. And also collaborate. If you do it for yourself, that's good. But then you just get the ABC. When you're doing it together with other people, you really get to new heights.
Interesting. I might take it to another kind of impact of the pandemic, I think, which has been pretty global, has been like many organizations have had their kind of digitization roadmap accelerated at a ridiculous rate that they perhaps weren't anticipating. And maybe kind of Tibby and or kind of Robert, is that something you've seen with some of the kind of customers and partners that you've worked with, and has that led to a kind of shift in the way they're operating and the people they're engaging?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the rapid change of the remote culture. I mean, of course, companies that weren't accepting it and then from 1 week to another, they accept fully remote, which everyone is happy with. So, I mean, of course, that's one of the biggest impact. And also, I mean, the new ways of learning stuff. I mean, you don't talk to your colleagues at the coffee machine anymore. Yeah. So, and you don't travel to US in 6 hours on a small airplane for a 5 days conference. So now you have to find new ways.
Although I miss that, I really, like I hate traveling, I hate flying, but I do, I do miss being at a conference, being 5 days in the same room or in the same place with, with like-minded people. That I don't think there is anything that we would ever compare will come to that level. So, like it took me quite a while to start going to conferences, but once I started, I became, a conference junkie. Like I felt like I need it. So now it's been a year since I've been at a conference. And I really miss it, but at the same time, the situation it is as it is, and you find other ways to meet with people. But to answer your question, James, I think one of the important things that I've seen is that the customers that are investing in their people to educate them, they're the ones that are very successful. They are the ones that are actually making, are able to move the needle and are able to make real progress. The biggest challenge it is to find good resources. It has always been the problem. But when you have them, we have a lot of people that are working for you already as it is today. Why not take that, that extra step and educate them? Because you already have them. They're already insiders. They already know your company. They're already, they're familiar with your mission, with your vision. So why not actually educating them? And there are so many things. I mean, even we at Microsoft offer so many trainings for free. If you look at Microsoft Learn, it's such a, it's such a huge difference between what documentation used to be. I mean, 30 years ago, documentation books or books that were talking about programming were very hard to come by. They were costing, around 1,000 to 2,000 Swedish kroner. I paid a lot of money on programming books, during my career. Now everything is more or less out there for free, and the book is what, 150, 200 Swedish kroner, and a good book. I'm not talking, like about bad books. So I think now there are no excuse for people not to learn, and I think companies should actually take notice and start making sure that their people do learn and do advance, because then otherwise they become dead weight.
I'm a big believer in that companies should invest in their developers, and it's going to benefit everyone in the long run. And like you say, there's no excuse now, right? Just go pick it up, go learn. You know.
Also, this reskill program, we have that in H&M as well, where we reskill people. I mean, hiring people is hard. It's hard to find the right competence, and it's also tremendously expensive processing, bringing them on board and everything, onboarding. So when once you are getting on board, we have those reskill programs to whatever you would like to do. It's more like, where do you want to go today? What do you want to learn today? And we really appreciate that people are like open-minded, open for new learning stuff, not only doing this 5 year in college and then I'm stuck. No, continuously learning, please. So what do you get out of college? Well, you get how you learn stuff, right? Yeah. That's more than anything else. I did my Master of Physics and in quantum physics, and it's like, am I using that in H&M? Not so much, I think, right? So, yes, stay true to your learning curve and your willingness to learn, and listen to your co-workers. Where do they want to go today, and try to adjust accordingly, because they are worth so much for your organization.
And I think to your point, Lennart, we had a discussion, one point we touched at the beginning about education, and if college is important, or academia is important. It's not really important to do your job, but I think that it serves two purposes. My father always used to say to me, you go to university just to learn how to learn. Everything you're going to learn during the university years, you are not going to use in your life, in your professional life, or very little of the things that you're going to learn, you are going to use to your life. But you're going to learn how to learn, and how to find the information that you need, how to distill that information, and how to make it useful for you and for the job that you need to do. So that I really, I didn't believe in. It's always the same. You don't trust your parents. That's for sure. At least not when you are, not when you are young. But then the other purpose it serves is actually that you can take something from the beginning to the end. So once you do that, I think it's a little bit. It serves again. It makes things a little bit better. And again, it doesn't have to be IT. I know that most IT, successful people that I know, they don't even have a background in IT. They didn't go to an IT university. But it doesn't mean that they cannot be good developers. They cannot be great developers, because it's more than just coding, just a programming language that you need to learn to be a good developer.
I love that. Learn how to learn. I think that's so good. I think the thing about SALT is it's 3 months, and while you learn a lot in 3 months, what it really does, it sets you on this kind of accelerated learning journey, right? And you snowball and you just keep going. And I think that if you can get that appetite for learning, and if you can manage to keep that, then you're laughing as a developer.
It was interesting. I think we touched on it a bit earlier, but the kind of the importance of soft skills and those kind of like surrounding kind of career development opportunities. How would you all rate those as kind of playing a key part of your career? And a disclaimer: we have got a series on soft skills coming up at the Reactor, and I will post the link in the window now. But yeah, any of you can take that. But how important do you think those soft skills are?
I think our biggest challenge in this industry, as it is right now, is communication. Lennart alluded to that we need to learn communication skills, and because that's where most of the problems are coming. When we invest a lot in a development project, and we realize that we started here, we did that, and then we did that, but we didn't deliver what it was asked of us. Why? Because we didn't communicate correctly. So I think when we talk about Agile, one of the biggest advantages is that if if you miscommunicate, you can correct your course much sooner than just waiting till the end of the project or till the end of your whole waterfall to realize that something was wrong. So I think that was one of the things. But then we realized that, I think in general developers are considered to be introverts. And as a joke, how do you differentiate an introvert from an extrovert when you talk with a developer? So an introvert is always talks to his shoes, an extrovert will talk to your shoes, so that's the difference. So now being the type of person that I'm talking to your shoes, that means that I learned to communicate, but apparently that's one of our biggest challenges. We always try to, we had to invent, let's say we had to invent Agile because we couldn't communicate, amongst us to solve the problems. Then we had to invent DevOps because we couldn't communicate with the IT people. I mean, come on, they are still IT, they are technology people like us. We are almost, living next to each other, but we're still not able to communicate correctly. So that's why we needed the DevOps to make sure that we have people, understanding the whole life cycle. Now we are talking about how we can communicate with the business, so we have the developer velocity index that shows that the more you actually have the more you empower your developers, the better for a company bottom line it is. So there are, again, I think the biggest soft skill that we are lacking as a profession is the communication.
But also to add to that one, TB, is the collaboration. If you look to yesterday's video games where you're doing ping pong for yourself, ping pong. Now today you have my kids are playing Fortnite, and what are you doing? They're killing each other. Okay, but that seems hard as a parent to look at them. But I appreciate what they're doing. They are collaborating. They're resolving problems. You go to this side, I go here, and blah, 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 blah. They're talking to each other. They're really social context. So a really nice, sorry for the reading here, but the really soft skill you need tomorrow and today is the collaboration and be able to share. Be able to step out and say, hey, I would like to do this. I fall, I step up again. And it's not so hard. You try it again in another direction.
Yeah, totally. And like Robert talked about, like cross-functional teams, which I think is maybe a little bit newer approach to stuff. And, as tech people, we need to be able to, have those conversations outside of our departments, let's say. And, if you think about, I mean, how many minutes or hours of your day are you actually sitting writing code, right? I mean, a lot of it is about the communication and about, understanding what you're building and understanding the solution and being able to do that collaboratively and with your team is essential. And I think that perhaps in the past we haven't focused on soft skills. And I think maybe me being Irish and a social person has really been beneficial to me and really helped me, grow in my team and become a team lead and understanding maybe a little bit more of the unsaid stuff in the day-to-day,
Thank you. It's cool. We've got quite a few questions in the chat now, so I'll start posing some of those to you if that's cool. So one is to all of you who has a manager or a tech lead, what other personal qualities do you look for except, the obvious tech skills needed for the role? So maybe that's your communication skills, Tibby, but beyond the technical skills, is there anything specific you're looking for?
So I would say, it's always the chemistry, the attitude, and if I would rather have someone that has a willingness to learn and someone that is a know-it-all. Even if even if you are the best developer when it comes to the to the nitty-and-gritty of the language, but if you have a wrong attitude towards learning, and maybe you might not be the right person for the team. And whenever you get someone new in the team, it needs to fit into the whole team. It's not, it's not you're making the hire. You need to make sure that the person coming, it is a good fit for the rest of the team. So because it's always bringing someone new into a team, it's always disruptive, no matter what. So you need to make sure that, the disruption is as little as possible.
Yeah, and I think when we talk with a big change, at least, is that companies finally are starting to talk about personality before technology, which is, I think, is really, really good, because it's kind of hard to change the personality of your new team members. It's probably easier to fix the technology and the technology knowledge, at least. So if you ever decide to have the guy or girl in your team for 5 or 10 years, I mean, you rather hire the right personality.
Yeah, and to fill in on that one, if you hire an expert, okay, you're expert. Yeah, I'm the number one to go to guy. I know everything. You just ask me, I shoot it at you. Is that the collaborative guy you would like to work with? Or is it more like, yeah, I have solved something maybe similar, I don't know, but maybe we can do this together and we learn while we do this? What does us more attracted to you? Because if you say we can learn together, then you invite someone to work with you. If you say, I know this, just ask me, then you don't invite people to work with you. Yeah. So it's an attitude question when you as a manager. That is number one.
And I think another thing that you still have to have technical skills. I've met people with great personalities, but they are not good developers, and they will never be. I mean, because it's still a trait. I mean, I would never go and paint a painting because I know it would be ugly. You know, I wouldn't look at it. So, you know, and I need to understand my limitations. So some technical skills you need to have. Those I mean, I think personality is more important indeed. It's not, but the technical ones are not to be ignored. So I don't, you know, some people might misunderstand what we are saying here, and they would understand. Oh yeah. So we don't care about technology. We just look at personality, and that's it. We don't hire, you know, we don't hire you for your technical skills. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
But isn't that fundamental that you say like, okay, but you assume you have the technical skills, and then we want this as well.
Yeah,
that's with as a handicraftsman, you need to know how to nail with the hammer and stuff. But then how you're actually going to build this house? Okay, then we need to collaborate.
Yeah. So then are the tools important? Because you know you mentioned the hammer. So that then I mean, when I hire you, do I hire you because you know how to use my specific hammer, because you know my specific language, or you know because you have a fair understanding of the programming, and then you can actually adapt quickly and then understand the new language or take the new tool that I'm giving you here?
Yes, that's truly so. That adaptability. Yeah. Oh.
Adaptability.
Thank you.
But just to say from Salt, I mean, I had very minimal coding experience before I started with Salt, but it was more the eagerness to get into it, right? And like wanting to get into it, and they do like a pre-program, and that you know whets your appetite to get into it. And I have a colleague who came through the program who also joined the company I work in now, Flowbox, and you know we do. Salt is a full stack JavaScript course, and he got a Python job at the other end because he was on this accelerated learning, right? And it's about, we can give you the tools, you can grow, but what he showed was a developer, right? It wasn't necessarily this type of developer, that type of developer.
Interesting.
I think that's really good because unfortunately, at least in Sweden, many are talking about the shortage of finding developers. It's so hard to find developers. Of course, it's hard if you expect everyone to have at least 3 years of experience, 5 years of Angular. You should also speak Swedish. Oh, of course, it will be damn hard to find those developers. You have to accept, and you have to really take a bet on junior developers. I mean, that's part of it, and find the right ones, not the Angular expert, I think.
Speaking of language, the language you speaking is like, okay, Swedish in Sweden, that's good. But at an H&M group, I would say that English is even better if you know to your as a native language, because that's what we're speaking today with everyone in every meeting. That's English. So you need to be, not only need to know your technical skills, how to make a computer work for you, but you also need to how to communicate, use your language, and the foreign language like English here in Sweden.
So I'll tell you something. I mean, Swedish is not my, it's not my main language, and neither English. But the thing was, knowing English was, helped me a lot to find a job. But moving to Sweden, Swedish became a, priority for me to learn, mainly because I really want to, have the social life. When you go and have the fika, at least when you work into an office and you want to have the fika, everybody or most people will talk in Swedish because it's natural to them, and that's how I actually learned Swedish, by being at at the fika table with my colleagues and drinking the coffee with them and understanding nothing and looking like this when they were making a joke because I had no idea what they were talking about. But then more and more you learn because you want to actually be part of it, and I think that's it has nothing to do with programming, but I think it's important, and not for a hiring perspective, but for someone for someone's well-being in a company.
Interesting. There's a specific one for you, Ima, actually, which is, did you ever consider following a fine art based role? And if so, in what area? But also, is there a fusion between fine art and coding? And what was the trigger that made you move into development?
Of course, I went down the path of the fine art role. I come from quite a creative family with careered painters. But I suppose it's something we talked about in the panel before, is this whole idea of like the analytical brain and the creative brain being separate, or it being, somehow some dichotomy between the two. And it's just, not true. As developers, you have to be creative. Like you say, you have to be solution focused, problem solving. So I think in my own personal work, my own artwork was becoming increasingly digital, and I was playing with 3D technologies, and I was playing around with code a bit. And then I realized, wow, I can do this as a job. How exciting. I can learn something cool and apply it, and still be an artist at the weekends. So I think for anyone who has a passion, and you can make it work in any way you want to. It's just a matter of taking the bull by the horns and learning and making it work.
Thank you. Another question, probably to anyone. How important do you think it is to learn and understand the business of the company as a developer? So how kind of entrenched do you need to get into the corporate
Very one word, very important.
I have been working as a consultant for many years. And one of the core skills as a consultant is actually to embrace the company where you have a problem to address. And that is understanding not only what they are, so to say, doing, but also how they're doing it and how they're appreciating their own business context problems. You really need to go into it. So it's utmost important that you understand the business. You may not understand it in the beginning as with everything, but willingness to learn and take aboard that knowledge to help you solve the thing that you really want to solve as a programmer is very important.
Yeah, and I think that's, with coming back to the cross-functional teams, you're getting a problem to solve. You have to understand your domain, your business, and trust the guys or girls to solve it in the best way. If it's with any programming language, AI or manual work, it doesn't really matter. As long as you solve the problem.
Yeah, so one of the things I mentioned, like we have the problem with the communication, and that's why I think it's very important, because that's a way to communicate, understanding the problem, understanding the business. And this is a two-way street as well. Like the business needs to understand developers, but we as developers need to understand the business. In other words, how do we make money? What exactly am I doing here? Maybe when you're at the beginning, you might not have the whole picture or a very big understanding. You might rely on your, on your team lead or on your architect or on your senior developer or whatever to tell you what to do. And then you get the small pieces here and there that you would solve parts of the puzzle. But the more you work with that company and the more you advance, I think the more you need to understand what are the problems that you're trying to solve with that particular solution and with what you are working. So I would say it is very important to understand the business and to understand what the company is doing in order to be successful and to be able to deliver value.
Also, if I may add to that one, it's like, okay, what are you interested in? Okay, you would like to use your hammer programming skills, that is. Okay, but what kind of problem would you like to solve? What kind of business would you like to be associated with? That is a question you must ask yourself as a person. Where do I want to see myself now? Where do I want to see myself in 5 years? Regardless if that is fashion retail or if it is some working for consultancy firms, seeing different businesses and everything, or bank or whatever. Do you want to help building a environmental friendly thing? Okay, where can I do that? Can I help a company transform themselves into environmentally friendly stuff?
Interesting. Okay, we've probably got time for one more question, which I think is quite a nice one to wrap up on. So what do you imagine is an optimal onboarding process for a developer new to a team? How hands-on should you and your teammates be? And is it a good idea to assign a dedicated mentor to the junior developer? Any thoughts on that? Is that something you experienced, Imo? Have you been
I think I wasn't necessarily partnered with anyone, but I did end up sitting next to the front-end lead who actually works for Demando now, and I definitely asked a lot of questions. But I think it's a really nice idea, and if a company had the kind of room to do that, I think that would be invaluable. I think when a company scales, you know, changing teams is inevitable, and I think, like Tibby said, any way to kind of lower any kind of any chaos or any change like that is always important, and I think having like a buddy can really help that, especially for a junior. And I mean, it's so much more than just learning on the job. You've got to learn all the domain knowledge, right? That in your particular area, you've got to learn the company culture. There's a lot that happens, and to have like a good team that can help you on that journey is invaluable.
And
but if you're hired for a specific skill set, I'm hired as a programmer, and then this starts off by 3 months onboarding, going around to the company, see what we're doing everywhere. Then it's like, okay, when can I start doing something? So it must be a combination of starting learning the company and the business, of course, but also jump into the water and try to learn swim together with a buddy would be perfect. Your mentor is following you, your coach. You have a coach here that managed you through the tunnel of onboarding and help you getting up to understanding and working with teams, work with the problems, attend to the meetings, like agile working.
So I think it's very important to have the mentor, when it does serve two purposes. The one is for you to feel welcome into the company and to learn exactly what you need to do. But the other one is actually for that particular person to evolve, because being a mentor, being a coach, helping someone else helps me as well, you know. So I feel like I'm evolving, helping someone else and giving them answers to their questions. So I think it's it's always a two-way street, this one, and it's always that's what I like to look at it as. But it's, you know, to answer the question, it's very important to have a mentor when you start, because it saves a lot of headaches and misunderstandings.
And I guess as well, because we've lost the, you know, in IRL experience, like you, as Imo was saying, like you're not learning by osmosis anymore. You're not hearing what other people are doing in the office next to you. So kind of formalizing that in a way where it would have happened a bit more kind of organically is probably more critical than ever right now. Cool. Okay, I think unless anyone else has any other points they would like to share as we kind of wrap up, but I think we've covered a lot in that time. So I'd like to say a big thank you to all of the panelists for kind of engaging today. It was a really, really interesting discussion, and we really appreciate you joining, and thank you for everyone participating. There's some really interesting questions in there as well, so that was awesome. We are for those of you who don't know, actually, the Reactor is in the business of kind of facilitating a lot of that networking. Usually, unfortunately, our space in Epicenter is not open right now, but we will be as soon as we are allowed to. And we do look forward to doing another event with Demando that will be very much on that networking side and kind of bringing together lots of developers. So that's something to watch out for. We've added a link there. There are some we've got a bunch of training modules that may be relevant from a kind of upskilling perspective as well, a little bit more focused around Azure technologies, but you can check them out on Learn and the link is there. So I think we are good, and thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot.